cognition. I mean, there's a superpower in having strength that people who don't have strength don't appreciate or understand. And I see this often. I was just talking to my friends this morning, and we can get into this in a minute. I literally won't, and I think I talked about this on your show too. I just won't go see a doctor if they're out of shape.
Yeah.
I want them to have that sixth sense. It's like a superpower. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. I agree with you 100%. You talk about strength training, here's another place that the industry's done an absolute disservice. It's shifted quite a bit, so give credit where it's due. But this is especially true for women. They've been lied to about strength training in particular. Strength training is the most valuable form of exercise that the average person can do for longevity, mobility, health, hormone health, and aesthetics. Okay, and aesthetics. And there's a few different reasons why, but one of the main reasons why is of all the forms of exercise that you can do, and I'm going to, by the way, preface this by saying all exercise and all activity done appropriately is valuable. So I want to be clear. So people, I don't want to discourage anybody. If you really enjoy the thing that you're doing and you're doing it appropriately, don't stop because of what I'm about to say, because the thing you do and you do right is the best thing that you could do if you don't want to do anything else. Okay. So in other words, someone asks me what's the best form of exercise, the first question I ask is, well, what do you like the most? That's always where I'm going to start. But if you're somewhat impartial and you're like, look, I just want to do something to improve my health, my quality of life, nothing isn't even in the same universe as strength training. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that the time you need to invest in it for returns is the smallest. It requires the least amount of time to elicit the most amount of change. It's the best investment, if you will. If you want to put $100 in an investment and get back the most amount of money, it's strength training. Not much needs to be done at all. In fact, if the average person strength trained twice a week for 45 minutes for the rest of their life and did it properly, they would reap tremendous, tremendous benefits for the rest of their life. And I can't say that for all forms of exercise. And it's primarily because strength training elicits adaptations that are extremely protective, and they're also somewhat sticky. And what I mean by that is when you build muscle, you whatever the amount of work is that is required for you to build muscle, a significantly less amount of work is required to keep that muscle. And there's lots of data on this. And the numbers vary between 1/9 to 1/3 of what they refer to as the training volume that was required to build that muscle is required to keep it. So that means if you're working out 3 days a week and you gain 10 pounds of muscle and you just want to keep it, once a week will probably do that. Okay. No other form of exercise really does that. Here's the second part that's amazing. There's something called muscle memory that's very specific to hypertrophy, which is muscle growth. When you build muscle, it requires a certain amount of work and consistency, and it's a slow process. But once you build it, if you lose it, building it back is significantly easier. It's so much easier to build muscle back once you've built it the first time. And there's these genetic changes that happen. It probably has to do with the stem cells and these epigenetic changes that happen in muscle, where your body, once it has that adaptation of muscle strength and growth, primes itself to build it back again if it ever loses it. So if you've ever had a cast on a limb before, you know what happens. You take it off, the muscle's gone, and then it comes back real fast. You're like, oh, that's cool. That's muscle memory. So although no results are permanent, think of the average person. They're probably going to stop at some point, miss some days, miss a month. Oh, I can't work out as much, but you're getting all these incredible benefits. And then here's my favorite part. No form of exercise positively affects the metabolic rate. And when I refer to positive, I mean speeds up the metabolism. In the context of the modern world, you want a metabolism that burns more calories. If this was 50,000 years ago, probably not, right? You want one that's thrifty. You want a metabolism that's super efficient. But if you live in a modern society and you're surrounded by food and it's hyper palatable and it's easily accessible, a faster metabolism is an incredible safeguard, right? So a fast metabolism affords me the ability to get away with eating more food, or even eating some junk food. Now, it doesn't correct for all of the damage that, quote unquote junk food can create. But if you're in a calorie deficit, the data on this is remarkable. And I caution, others communicating this, or even just, be wary about what I'm about to say here, because it's not as cut and dry. Because sometimes when I say this, I think people take the ball and run with it. But when you look at the data, if you're hitting your essential nutrients and you're in a calorie deficit, a large percentage, majority of the negative effects that come from junk food are erased simply because you're in a calorie deficit. Now, there's people that I hate that communicate this in a terrible way, like these scientists that go, I'm gonna eat McDonald's and lose 30 pounds only and watch my blood, markers improve. And I hate that, because it doesn't paint the full picture. Because if you just ate McDonald's, good luck trying to be in a calorie deficit. Like, those foods are designed to make you overeat, and you're going to. And there's other things that we can't necessarily, that they don't necessarily test in traditional blood tests. But nonetheless, faster metabolism is an incredible safeguard. The most effective way to speed up your metabolism is to simply build muscle. You have more active tissue that is expensive to maintain and to operate, and you have a larger storage capacity for stored carbohydrates. You want to talk about insulin sensitivity? If you want to make your body more sensitive to insulin, the fastest way possible, build some muscle. There's studies on obese individuals who lose no weight, and all they do is build a little muscle, and you see these significant improvements in insulin sensitivity. And then, not to go off on a tangent, but when we look at type 2 diabetes, we look at cardiovascular disease, yes, a significant percentage, a majority of them are obese. But what they don't talk about is a significant minority of them are not overweight or obese, and to the tune of 15%, 20%. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but that's millions of people. So millions of people are getting type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease, and they're not overweight. What's happening? They're under-muscled.
Yep, they're under-muscled.
They're under-muscled. That's the silent epidemic that nobody's talking about. So strength training does all this for you, and it's in its adaptation. It's not in the calories burned while you do that. See, other forms of exercise, a lot of value is in the movement itself, which there's value there. But strength training is like, do it properly, and then you're done, and then the adaptations, which stay with you, are what give you this value.
And there's such significant value in just contracting muscle, just actually using it. People don't understand this is the one organ system that we can play with.
Yes.
Other organ systems are sort of reliant on nutrient status and on stress levels and on all different, oxidation, inflammation, insulin signaling, hormone signaling. Muscle, we can actually manipulate. And we can build it, and we can build these reservoirs of resilience. And it's just non-negotiable. Like, it's really, I am met with so many women who don't want to do it, or they don't like it. And I'm like, I literally don't care if you don't like it. Like, you have to first off hire somebody who helps you like it. But I literally don't care. If you have any intention of aging well, aging appropriately, looking good while you do it, you're going to need muscle. You're also probably going to need some hormones and some other things that I also think are non-negotiable. But the muscle part is like, and it doesn't have to be expensive, right? Like, this is something I'm not as big of a fan of body weight as I am of picking up heavy shit and putting it back down, but there's still utility in that as well. And simply just squeezing the muscles itself is going to have profound impacts on our inflammation, our insulin, our metabolic health.